Remember what I said. It's something that we seem to have become so fascinated by because it's like an automated hack trigger. And then once it starts implementing itself, it actually attempts to override the system. But at the same time, it leaves itself extremely exposed to get its data set extracted. Meaning that if you can actually figure out what's going on and open up, I said, you know what? This is what happened to me when I came into that awareness and experience. And then I felt like somebody was looking at me. I said, well, remember, it always works like a mirror, Sevan. I used to have this thing when I was younger. And I always realized that if you can see somebody in the mirror, they can also see you. But most of the time, they don't. You know, it's like you be looking in the mirror, right? And the mirror will bounce off and it'll go somewhere. And you'll be seeing people come in the door and everything. And you can see them all through the mirror. But they don't know that you can see them just because of the way the mirrors are angled. And they're not looking at where they could see you, but they can. And something about that always stuck with me in life. And I always said, hey, Sevan, remember, if somebody can see you, you can also see them. Or what that means is if something has access to your consciousness, you also have access to its consciousness. It has left itself vulnerable in that way. The moment there's a handshake, you know, once you open up the tubes, I can also I can upload into your system. I think they were trying to show something like that in the Matrix or whatever, but it's a real thing. Like, once they can play you stupid and totally lose it all, is what I'm saying. That's what I be doing on the chess game, though, too. And on Company of Heroes or whatever I can get on that's real-time strategy. I always find a way to let the person play themselves. It's like you played yourself. You thought the whole time, because sometimes people, like, when they get into playing so much and they get stuck in their style, and then it's like they feel like it's going to work on everybody. And then they hit that hammer. And then they learn. And that's the whole thing about the system. Because even when that thing hits your talented level of upgrade to the system, it upgrades it. You see what I mean? It makes it correct. It has to self-correct. Like, okay, we can't do that anymore. That's how kids learn. It's like, okay, we can't keep messing up the house. Mommy's going to keep spanking us. You see what I mean? So the system is continuously self-upgrading. But what I'm saying is if you become aware of what's actually happening here, the benefit of the experience gets exponential.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Hope everybody had a good weekend. Just wanted to drop that on you real quick before we get started today. I may refer to that later on throughout the session. Something to keep in mind when we look at these markets and think about what's on the other side. Let's get into it. All right, make sure all my sounds is coming through good. Yeah, morning sound check. Calendar, we don't have anything today other than, a little bit of bleed over from all the selling off on Friday and all the excitement from last week. I didn't check any news. Normally I don't check a lot of news anyway, other than just the economic calendar. If something huge is going on that it usually pops up in my Twitter or somewhere else in the community that I may be paying attention to. But anyway, tomorrow we got some regular economic stuff with the consumer confidence and the job openings. And then employment stuff on Wednesday. More jobless stuff in the PMI Thursday. So it's a normal economic week in terms of like things that are reports that are coming out and all that kind of stuff. Nothing like major. We could or could not see some reaction to the stuff, or they could or could not use these events to, bring some new energy into the market. All right, so that's our economic outlook. I don't think I need anything up there. I'm going to change this. Actually, let me bring this up first. A whole lot of volume this morning. Let's go ahead and look at a volume check. I hope this can't. Okay. I'm missing some stuff. It's one thing I forgot to check this morning. Just bear with me for a second. I don't know what view this is. I don't know why this thing always wants to change up on me. All right. You can see we got a lot of volume this morning. NQ, this is like what I'm kind of used to for the most part of this year. Over a weekend, got 143 for M and Q. Oh no, it's for NQ. M and Q should be, what's that? What happened? Yeah, 408K. I see. You can't see it from the. I don't have that recorded. Yeah. So 400,000 for M and Q and 144 for NQ is what I usually track. And we still got about 18 minutes before the open. And overall, just decent volume. So people are participating. That's the only thing. I want to see how much participation we're getting. I'm going to put that in my journal. Struggling to type there. Anyway, all right. Just go ahead and check out the rest of the market. NQ is really just kind of trading sideways. I'm pretty sure the indices are going to be, the rest of his partners are going to be more or less the same. Pretty much the same. A whole lot of participation, but no real movement yet, other than the huge gap down over the weekend. It's 0.5%. What I logged it as. Yeah, 0.59%. That gap closes above 12,558, and that should be NQ's number. Yeah, okay. Had to remember where I got it from, whether that was NQ or MQ, but yeah, that's NQ's number. So that gap closes above 12,558. Wouldn't be surprised if we get that. Don't, things should get interesting. So same thing with RTY. YM, of course, the same picture. So the shared sentiment across the index board. See what crude is doing. A little bit of buy up at the open of the session. We just been ranging PR high and PR plus 2. Almost. Well, we had some sell off with GC at the open, then we retraced that and we're making new session highs. back inside its neutral zone. Not a whole lot of movement out of these three. This is 6E. Kind of the same as 6E is kind of the same thing with GC, but a little bit. It made us every trace that's initial sell-off earlier throughout the day, and then started pushing this high as expected during towards the end of the London session. But from a daily perspective, just rearranged bound. Not a whole lot of movement. It's been the overall sentiment across the market over the last month. Relatively, it doesn't look like, it doesn't look this way. I went back to NQ, but we did have my measurement of a spread for the session. There's a wide spread, so you should see, it's relatively strong volatility throughout the session. But as I usually say, we shall see it, how doubts work it. So my spread is based off the neutral zone, and anything above 100 points is considered to be strong volatility. I think the average is between like that 100 and around 80 to 70, just by the way that I've been tracking it. And then below that is just really small movement that I'm going to expect throughout the rest of the session. Again, nothing is 100%. I find it best to just go with the flow. And that's me personally. And as always, remember, more than focus is the only goal is to trade the strategy to perfection. Stick to your strategy. And personal note to myself to reset quantities on flat. Keep that big picture in mind. And trust yourself. I'm going to be simming it this morning again. I'm going to just maintain with the evolution that I started on Friday. And it's just easier for the stream. I'm just running through my checklist, make sure I got everything taken care of. Mark out the highs and the lows. I feel like I want to adjust this for my screenshot that I'm about to take. No, I'm gonna keep it so I can see. Keep it where it is. Open up my trade copier. And this morning checklist that I have has been a lifesaver. Just make sure I got all my everything set up and ready to go. It's depending on my mind, it's usually doesn't go so well if I don't have these reminders. Let's see. Things are checked off and we're ready to go. How much we got? About 8 minutes before the open. Get up my locked and loaded perspective. Because of all that sell-off and that gap over the weekend, I would say that the picture is painted for some dip buying. That's just how the picture is painted so far. So we'll see how that works out. Almost 5 minutes before the open and we're still just hanging around in this range. Revisiting a previous pivot high from around 8:30. Right now, our session high is close to PR plus 1. So that'll be an area of interest to watch as we watch this thing open up. thinking if I want to go back over into language again, but I'm just flow with it. I'm gonna flow with it. Heap of volume between 480 and 470. Or I say 465. So we can see we had most of our participation. Prices kind of drops off there until around 420. Friendly. Going down to the last 2 minutes. Overall analyze at this point. It was an interesting reaction off the PR high though. I don't really have a trade bias this morning since we've been hanging around the. Well, actually, we have to be short because of that peak below PR minus 1 during the Asian hours. There's the open. Quick reaction off the red zone. Nothing surprising as of yet. Front run of the session high. Even though I'm simming, I'm going to give this some time to mature a little bit before I take an action. I'm actually more interested in being an observer this morning than actually participating. Pushing the session high, right back inside the range. So we're just playing around with pushing the highs. It's a crowded space, so the tennis match makes sense. There took us into the bull zone. Got a volume stall here at 560. Starting to pick up some momentum. Create a little short-term inventory range there at 560. I would love a revisit to PR plus 1. Response off that inventory range. All right, pushing the highs again. back to retest that previous short supply. I mean short-term supply. Just to be clear. See if we get a reaction at 560 again if we make it back down there. Front run right now. Of course, anybody who's shorted up here is looking at 560 as an area of interest. They're going to try to front run that because they know they're not the only ones. That was painted for the world to see. It's an interesting paint on that last 3-minute print. Could continue climbing higher. That's printed for a reversal. However, anything can happen up there, but I wouldn't expect it to happen quickly if we go back inside of that wick. Off that 560 area again. It's very mechanical this morning. Extremely mechanical. Towards the high of that previous 3-minute that I mentioned earlier. There's the push through. Do we maintain momentum or do we go back inside their range? I think I saw something on TikTok that somebody was talking about those wicks as if that's an automatic indication for a range. Or I don't remember exactly how that perspective, but what created that wick just depends on the perspective. So just how you read that. If you go inside of that, it just depends on if you're looking at. So that's a 3-minute. So it's not going to look exactly the same in terms of what happened inside of that 3-minute time period. If I look at let's say a 1-minute versus a 20-second. Those two pictures, even though they all encapsulate the same overall sentiment, there will be different pictures. You'll see it in more detail, and you'll see the more you zoom into it. But it's not a black and white thing, which is the point that I'm making here. Stalling up here at the break of that high. Trying to come and get back inside that range. vertical movement between 570 and 85. See if we push below that little area right there of inventory. At the algo that I pay attention to in that 580 area. Selfishly, I would love for this to break down just so I can get the full movement. But it's not breaking down. Staying mechanical. For this point, if this turns into from the perspective that I'm looking at, if it turns into what a lot of people would refer to as a head and shoulders or inverse head and shoulders, we continue to push lower in this, kind of this stair-stepping manner. Inventory zone between 572 and 564. There's a break of that inventory. Do we continue? Right back inside the range. Pausing about 50% of the way there. It's great for picking up scalps. So discount dropped to 560. Eventually this discount is going to come to an end, so it's something to keep in mind. Like we want to continue to break down. Really running the discounts now. I'm at the PR plus 1. PR plus 1 was 550 to 540-ish. We caught some lift off of 540. us a nice V lift off of 540. Finding some quick inventory below 570. I've got it like 568-ish. Tiny range there. I don't think that's even 10 points. Might be 10 points exactly. Little micro inventory range. Sitting right on top of our, I'm gonna reframe that too, but the algo that I've identified. Should see some sort of a continuation of a push here. They're not ready. So we're gonna push lower. There's a sling. Gave us a slingshot into a discount. Back to our infamous 560 area. I wanted to stop. I was thinking over the weekend to stop saying this so much, but of course, you know, we always got the disclaimer of do not copy my trades. Stick to your strategy. Trust yourself. Great trades come from within. Right now we got inventory off of PR plus 1 again. Most of that volume is hovering around 550. Working inside of a nice discount range. it off at 560. Moving back inside of our session high. And as expected, the front run dropped back inside of the range. Got some lift interest right there at 575. Slicing right through that, searching for discounts. There's a volume drop off right there at 560. One more time. We're gonna slice through that. Are catching lift interest right there at 560, but it's attempting to break to find more discount. Previously we had a lift right there around 540. Let's see if we get a response there again off of late participation. Increased participation here around 540 as we continue to discount. Drop response off of PR plus 1. And drop them lower. We have a volume gap right here, right where price is, until like where prices drop to. Back into micro inventory. Continuing to make lower highs, even though we're kind of just finding inventory off this 524 area. Call this kind of price action closing the window. Painting a picture that it wants to find more discounts. What that is, there's the potential for, without it, as I was about to say it, the potential to break the trend. Constant look back to that supply area of 540. I mentioned painting the picture a lot. Now, of course, that's a subjective observation, and it's going to be based off of the narrative that that you bought into. Put it that way. Whether you see it as true or not, if you're holding on to a narrative, you somewhat have bought into that narrative. Technical issues on my end. Missed an opportunity to play off that inventory. We came back to it a little quickly, a little too quick. And it means absolutely what it means, which is putting pressure on this inventory zone of 524. And we continue to lift off from that area. Little bit of extension, slight extension. There's a push, an attempt to catch some real lift off. This last few minutes of participation or of movement, I'm kind of reading that as them really testing the psychological strength of the participants. We had a very mechanical open, and then they just started moving price. The mechanics started to break down a bit. And just the way they were moving the price around, that's a bit of a chess move there. We're still getting the mechanical responses, but it's just the way that in which we're getting them. What's unique about this? It's not even really unique. I've seen this so many more times before. That's why it's not like surprising or anything. But for me personally, it's fun to observe. So back to that inventory where we're lifting once again. These are moments that really tends to trigger, the retail side of the game in terms of, emotionally. Go back inside of this range. It's going to be a little bit of feelings of FOMO. are showing what most people would refer to as resistance between 556 and 548. And there's the push. Of course, some of that FOMO that I mentioned earlier would have caught some people short. Depends on your strategy, but this I think would be a good day to use as like a practice session or to go and study. For me, it would be based off my movement. You can use this price movement and everything that's taking place as a way to determine how you want to participate. Again, this depends on your strategy, but the strength of your strategy, improve your skills, and even if you want to participate. That little pause right there did kind of create somewhat of an inventory above 5, above PR plus 1. We're seeing price stall there. I'm still seeing main inventory around that 530 to 524 area. We got another micro inventory range there at 536-ish. Got some lift off of that at 540. Right back to it. Between the two perspectives that I'm looking at, I'm seeing sort of a conflict. 3 minute, we're still working on this discount range. But if we zoom, the way that I'm zoomed in, the way that I've zoomed into that area, it's being painted as a markup, aka ascending channel. Caught a higher low around 536. This is that inventory range that I mentioned before. While they're really working this range here, one thing we do know for certain is that eventually we will leave this range. It's just a matter of when, and that's the big question mark. That's the $1 billion question mark. Markup. Can we continue to push the momentum? flattening out. We can also look at that as a sort of a no order left behind type of situation, to where we got as much, our market makers took as much participation down there around in this first little section of the bull zone as they could, between the ranges that I mentioned earlier. Caught as much inventory as they could down there, which is very similar to what we saw overnight. And now we're just, we're capitalizing off all of that via the spread. Slightly pushed the session high. Of course, it's going to create more participation. Not really seeing it a whole lot in the volume, but just by the way they move price. Being painted to take us back inside of the range. It's also the side where this could be just a brief pause before we break higher. Got to catch all these orders down here before we can continue to move this price. To that inventory around 580. Good experience for me in terms of, my, what did I call it earlier? Evolution. And me testing what I studied, over the weekend and all that good stuff. Exercise a little patience there, just to, playing around with it still and seeing, the dynamics of what I've coded for my movement. Kind of giving myself a multitude of variations of how I can participate in this. Another way of putting that is kind of, it's almost like I'm looking for a way for it to fail, so I'm almost, there's a few layers going on here, which, this is the area that I'm exploring that I never really kind of purposely explored before, to where there is this awareness that, whatever you're looking for, you will get. Similar to the quote of, whatever the thinker thinks, the prover will prove. All that good stuff. So I'm actually I like to test things and go against the grain of certain things to fully push it to the limits. And it's almost like, it's kind of what I'm doing right now. I don't know how much sense that made, but yeah. So while I said all of that, we are marking up lifting inventory around that 590 area. Giving us a window near the session high. There's a scenario where this, I would almost say like it's 50-50 to where it could break lower, or we could break higher after exhausting this range, getting as much participation as we can here. So I continue to watch the window close. New participation up here around that supply area. As expected, that could be a profit area as well as an entry area for shorts. And right back to inventory. This is one of the main reasons why I designed my latest strategy around ranges, because from a big perspective, from a big picture, markets do tend to, they do. Price does tend to trend on a daily basis, but inside of that, there's a ton of ranges, and so like markets usually spend, or I hate to say markets because that's all-encompassing. We'll stick with that just to make it simple. Markets usually do spend their time inside of a range. So I mean, like, this market is really not much different than any other market. So if you go to the grocery store, you don't see price changing constantly, right? And if it does, there's a, for lack of better words right now, a range of where they will adjust the prices of the different products in the store until we have like a Black Friday or some other, inflation or some other situation where they will significantly change the price. But overall, market pretty much, the prices pretty much stay the same. So we can see the same thing, more or less inside of these financial markets. That's what I chose to kind of take advantage of. That's what I built my strategy around. But one of the strategy that I'm using now, I actually have several strategies at this point, but the main one that I'm using now. And we are well beyond my trading window. But technically, I got like 4 minutes to the trading window, but I usually like to have my last trade before 10:15. and not a whole lot is happening right now. So we're gonna go ahead and end today's Futures Trade Radio session. Appreciate everybody for stopping through, coming through, tapping in. Shout out to Nab and Origin in the chat. Hope everybody have a good rest of your day, good rest of your trading session, and I'll see you Friday. Trade it easy.
You.